are your actions right now mirroring the fact that you want to be in PT school? Like, are they actually like catapulting you closer, or are they just stalling you?
Turning dreams into reality. In the night with the
Hey, what is up? How you doing? My name is Joseph Ngugi. I'm a physical therapist, also one of the co-founders of Pre-PT Grind, where we help you get into physical therapy school without wasting time or money. Super excited for this specific training because I think it's just going to help you ask yourself certain questions that will give you some shifts in action, right? Because everything that you do from this point up until when you get into PT school is just based off of what kinds of actions you're taking, how intentional they are, and whether or not they're drawing you closer or further away from your dream of becoming a physical therapist. And as I do this video, listen, we have lots of content for you. So if this is the first time you're seeing any one of our videos, be sure to not only listen to this one, not only like it and share it and subscribe to it, but more importantly, be sure to binge on all of the other content that we have, because it's meant to help you get into your dream of becoming a physical therapist, if that is indeed what you want. So this video, I've decided to title it, Do Your Actions Match What You Say You Want as a pre-PT and as a future physical therapist? So the reason why I'm doing this is because, over the years, what I've realized is that sugarcoating stuff just doesn't really help anybody, right? So in most of our content, we usually just kind of shoot straight, mainly because everything that we do helps you get into PT school. And I'll preface it with saying this: everything that we say is meant to help you understand that any students, like anybody, can get into physical therapy school, whether you have a low GPA, whether you've been rejected before, whatever your obstacles are, anyone can get into physical therapy school. And I think that's why we can be very kind of straightforward, because you understand that we're teaching from a perspective of, wait, like anyone can get in. So everything we're telling you is getting you closer. Whereas I think sometimes when we're hearing some pretty straightforward stuff, it's usually deterring us away from getting into PT school, or deterring us away from our belief in ourselves. So that's not what we do. We always want to help you get closer to your dream. And we do believe that if you're listening to this right now and you actually want to be a physical therapist and you feel called to be a physical therapist, well, you can do it. You can do it. But there's a few things that might have to change. Sorry, that will have to change in order for you to get there. So let's talk about this. Do your current actions match what you say you want? So for most of the students that we serve, they want to be physical therapists, obviously, right? So they say they want it. I'll ask students questions like, why do you want to be a PT? And people will tell me some of the most, inspirational stories from their own experience, stories from family members' experience. Some of them are just kind of like, hey, one day I just stumbled upon it. Like for me, like my story was really more of a stumbled upon PT type of story. So whatever your reason is, you for some reason got to this point where you're like, this is what I want to do. My next question is like, are your actions right now mirroring the fact that you want to be in PT school? Like, are they actually like catapulting you closer, or are they just stalling you, right? And so why I say this is because we do strategy calls, right? So if you ever want a strategy call, just reach out to us and we got you. Actually, I'll share something at the end that might actually give you that opportunity if you want it. But we do strategy calls with students before they work with us, right? Because we do actually work with students to get them into PT school. And I ask a few questions just to see what students have done to solve their problems. So if I'm on a call with somebody and they're talking about, well, I've been struggling with my GPA, or I've been struggling with the GRE, or I've been struggling with past rejections and all of these different things, I usually ask students, okay, so what have you done prior to this call to basically help you solve this problem? And so some students say, yeah, I've done this, I've retaken classes, and I love those answers, because what that tells me is that you've basically maxed out on what you feel you have the capacity to do, and now you're asking for help because you're like, I don't know what to do next. Like, is there anything more that I can do? And those are the students that honestly I see excel regardless of how low their GPA was and whatnot. But what I've come to realize is that a lot of students haven't done all that much to resolve that thing, right? So here's why this is important. So whenever someone says, well, I haven't really done all that much, I've thought about doing this, I've thought about doing that, I've watched a few videos on YouTube, I've watched a few of y'all's videos, I've listened to some of y'all's podcasts, and that's about it. Well, what I know is that student has not really been resourceful. So I asked them, I'm like, well, well, not more so ask, but I tell them, I'm like, hey, listen, if you're going to get into PT school, like think of getting into PT school like becoming a professional athlete, or making it to the finals of a sports league or whatever. Like y'all, like this is the highest level of your journey right now, which means that your actions need to mirror that. So here's a quick example of what it actually looks like to be a high-end pre-PT. And this is why we say that anyone can get into physical therapy school. You just got to be willing to shift how you look at your effort right now. Does that make sense? And part of it is because this whole thing is a sprint, right? Like I think sometimes when we're looking at our pre-PT journey, we're like, well, I don't know if I have the time for that. Like it's not always going to be comfortable time-wise, right? Like this is a sprint. Like whether it's for the next 6 months, if you're applying right now, it might be the next few months. If you're applying in the next year, it might be the next few, it might be the next year and a half, right? But it's a sprint, right? Which means that during the sprint, you're maximizing everything so that you can relax afterwards, right? Like when someone is sprinting, like in a race, they're not doing it so that they can last an hour doing it. That's a marathon. That's more of a jog. That's paced, right? But when I'm sprinting, I'm giving everything I have within a very short period of time so that I can get a certain result. Does that make sense? And so we had a student who had a lower GPA, pretty low GPA, to the point where advisor basically was like, you know what, like this isn't gonna work. Family members were like super doubtful of this student's ability to get into PT school. So obviously they were trying to help this particular individual shift their career path. But as I tell you the story, this student actually recently became a physical therapist, right? They recently finished physical therapy school. I'm going back to when they were a pre-PT because they were one of our clients back then. And what I remember about this student is that in his words, he said, Joseph, I needed to start playing angry. So that's the term that he used. So playing angry in his terminology was basically, I needed to give, like I had to like maximize everything I had. Like I had no option. Like I had a low GPA. So whatever classes I was going to retake, I was going to retake, and I was going to figure out how to get the help, the guidance, whatever I needed to do to make sure that I didn't retake a class and get like a B-. I retook every single class and I wanted to get an A, like the highest grade possible. I was not shooting for anything less. When I went to go do my GRE, I was like, yo, how resourceful can I be and how locked in can I be so that when I take the GRE, my score is high, right? And so what he said is he was like, yo, I literally looked around me and said, what resources can I take advantage of right now? And I'm going to make sure that I do just that so that when I apply to PT school, when I submit to my application, I know without a doubt that I maximized everything. I did everything in my power. And the reality is a lot of students are not doing that. And if you're listening to this and you're like, man, like, I don't know if I'm maximizing everything. I don't know if I'm being resourceful. I don't know if I'm taking advantage of the things that are in front of me. Well, now is your time to shift that. Now is your time to say, you know what? I'm going to start treating this like the sprint it is. I'm going to start playing like this is for a championship. I'm going to like literally do what other students have done that have been in my situation, that have struggled with the same things that I've struggled with. And I can say that the biggest difference is how resourceful students are. And I'm telling you right now, like the more resourceful you are, the better you will do, period. The less resourceful you are, the more you will blame others, the more you will feel like a victim of everything, the more you'll feel like it's too late, the more you'll doubt yourself. So like, here's a perspective thing, right? So right now I'm filming this in 2022. Y'all, like 20 years ago, let's just go back 20 years ago, right? 20 years ago, like think of the things that we have now that did not exist back then, right? Y'all, like just forget paid resources, right? Because like we do coaching and so you would have to pay us to work with us, right? But forget paid resources. Think of the free resources that are out there right now. Think of number one, like podcasts. Like 20 years ago, come on now. Like you don't have podcasts like you do now. 20 years ago, you do not have Instagram. 20 years ago, you definitely don't have TikTok. Like that's just a few years old. You don't have YouTube the way it is right now. Y'all, like you have so many resources. Look, y'all, like 20 20 years ago, you did not have the ability to connect with so many people from different parts of the country. You didn't have the ability to connect with other pre-PTs that are in the same position as yourself right now. You didn't have the ability to have mentors that are across the country. You didn't have the ability to connect with other PT students. You didn't have the ability to research and understand other programs online. Y'all, be resourceful. If you want to get into physical therapy school, let your actions match what you say you want. Does that make sense? Right? Let your actions match what you say you want. Because if your actions start to match that, then what will happen is this. You'll start actually opening doors for yourself. You'll start asking different questions. Students that are resourceful, honestly, ask the best questions. Because you can tell that the questions they're asking are coming from the perspective of maximizing on what they had access to already. And I'm telling you right now, like literally, like if we ever let students, whenever we let students into our program, those are the students that we're looking for, students that are resourceful. Because if we're gonna give them resources, if we're gonna give them guidance, and like I already know that they're gonna crush it because they've already proven that they have been resourceful previously. If someone tells me, well, I haven't done all that much, well, truthfully, they might not even be a match for what we do coaching wise, because I already know that if we give them the world, they're probably not going to be resourceful. They're probably going to find a way to, like push it off. They're going to find a way to, find something else to blame or whatever. Like, y'all, you have to, like, are you being resourceful? Just be real with yourself. Right now, as I'm doing this video, as you're watching this, as you're listening to this right now, you're by yourself probably, right? And so just be honest with yourself. Am I maximizing what I have access to? Because in 2022, you have access to so much, but most students are not using any of it at all. Most students are kind of like, well, I don't really know. I don't know where to start. Okay, cool. Like if you don't know where to start, then your resourcefulness should be to look for guidance. Like I think sometimes we make this more complicated than it really is, right? It should be looking for guidance. Like, where do I find guidance? If it's us, if it's somebody else, like find it. And I think sometimes we don't realize that if we're not like being resourceful, if we're not solving the problems we have, if we're not looking for help, we're actually wasting time and we're delaying our dream, right? Like every single time I procrastinate more. When I procrastinate more, I delay my dream. When I delay my dream, it actually increases my doubt in my ability to even get to that dream, which is why a lot of students end up quitting. And that's why we always say, the only way you don't get into your dream of becoming a physical therapist is if you pull the plug. It's not on anybody else. It's whether or not you decide to pull the plug. And this is how you prevent it. So be resourceful. That is my message today. Are you being resourceful? Be resourceful. You have access to so many resources. And then if you're still stuck and you're like, yo, I need help, I need guidance, then obviously you have us. And we are a massive resource. But online, man, you guys have access to so much. And I just want you to open your eyes to it so that you can get drastically closer to get into PT school. And also, real quick, as I wrap this up, if you have 10 minutes, like literally 10 minutes right after this or today, if you have 10 minutes where you want to learn how any student can get into PT school after having a low GPA, previous GRE struggles, previous rejections, and all that stuff, we did a training that is 10 minutes, or it's actually 9 minutes and 51 seconds, right? We did a very, very short training. Short because we want to respect your time, but it actually gives you the blueprint that we have used to help hundreds of students get into PT school, and how you can do it too. So if you want to access it, go to www.rejectionproofprept.com. Is that what you want, right? Like rejectionproofprept.com, and that is it. Hope you have an amazing rest of your day. If you enjoyed this, be sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share this with your friends, share this on your IG, share this to whatever. Just share it with your people, tag us in it. And of course, we'll see you on the next training. Much love.